This is supposed to be a jingle music, but I'm broke and I can't afford a nice jingle track. And I'm scared of copyright infringement, so this is gonna be the transitional music. Hello, welcome to the O.M Wills Podcast, the Open-Minded Wills Podcast. The goal of the podcast is to talk to people from all walks of life, to give people the opportunity to share their life stories and to promote their works. And from not hosting anyone, I will talk about topics that interest me at the time. Today is January 16th, and I am your host, Author O.M Wills, Open-Minded Wills. I am the author of several books. My big series is called ERTA, the Complete Series, Erotic Road Trip Adventures, the Complete Series. I also have 2 short story books. One is called My Gym Desires. The other one is called My College Desires. All of these you can find on Amazon and other retail book sites. The purpose of today's episode we'll be talking about the challenges of being an indie author and specifically starting a podcast, actually. As an indie author, I'm trying to reach many people, and one of those ways is to start this podcast that I'm doing right now. In this episode, have you ever wondered why indie authors and artists, any influencer on social media ever seem so desperate for follows? Why they DM you even if they risk getting blocked, especially those music guys on Twitter and stuff, or X now, and they just DM you and they bombard you, you ever wonder why they're so desperate? And you ever wonder why podcasts recycle the same people to do interviews? One popular interview, I really love this guy, The Library Show. The people he interviews, those people have been on plenty of podcasts. And you ever wonder why you never see any new faces? We're going to get into that today. Oh, by the way, if you're new here, please like and subscribe. And also, please check out my books on Amazon. Even one book sale a day will mean the world to me, especially if it's ERTA, the Complete Series. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay. A lot of this is going to be from my experience, but this easily translates to a lot of the creatives, like actors and artists and things like that. Okay, I'm a little bit nervous, if you haven't noticed, because this is my second podcast and I'm doing it on my own. And we're going to get into why I'm even doing the podcast by myself. So let's first talk about, though, why any creative seems so desperate. And this is from firsthand experience being an indie author, that our talent seems to come last. And how do I say this? So for a lot of indie authors, their first idea of a challenge is writing the book, We're like, oh my God, we're going to have to write this story and I hope everyone loves it. So we are going crazy over the details of the book. We rewrite, we overthink, we do all this stuff. And for a lot of first-time indie authors, you have no idea. The pain you're about to go through. Unless you have the easy mode, I don't know how you would have that. And if you do, pass that to me. But the pain you're going to go through after you actually click publish when it comes to marketing is why, if you've never been desperate before, you will start to feel desperate. Because gaining an audience is insane work. As everyone starts to use the term diabolical, it is diabolical. a lot of indie authors, I call this a trap. I don't know if you guys consider this a trap, but I will say fall into the author follows author group trap. And I say it's a trap because authors, you guys are busy people. And I know there are a lot of authors that do read, but once you start writing, if you have time to read another person's book, good on you. But I don't know how you have that kind of time, because promoting your book is crazy. So when you're in an author's group, for me especially, I started to feel desperate. So that's the first trap you get into when you're on social media. You click publish and then you start looking for your audience. Because say you've tried to build your audience before you've created your book, you've probably had this downfall where everyone who said they're going to buy your book, a lot of them start flaking out. That happened to me, and I know it happened to a lot of other indie authors I talk to, and then we get funneled into this. Oh, well, there's a Facebook group for authors that write sci-fi. I used to write sci-fi first. That was my first book. And then it's like you go to that group. So I wrote sci-fi. I went to a bunch of sci-fi groups. And then I started writing erotica, science fiction. I merged it. So I went to groups like that. And authors are just following authors, and we're not reading each other's book. And any author, the reason why I always seem nervous when I start these topics is I'm used to social media now where there's going to be people that jump down your throat. Well, I'm an author and I read all the time. Good for you. But then how is your marketing going? Because if you're doing both at the same time and you're balanced, then I'm proud of you. But for a lot of us, it gets one way or the other. Because if you're reading, again, you're not writing your own books, and you're definitely not spending time marketing. So I don't know how you're doing that. But I would say when I was in those author groups, I was getting faked. Especially a lot of them would say they were reading, a lot of virtue signaling. They would be like, I do read. And I'm like, okay, we'll try out my book. And then they were kind of like, well, you try out my book. I was more honest. I'm like, I don't have time to read. So then I realized like, okay, this is, I'm not doing good in here. So then I would try to find readers. Finding readers is insane because readers' TBRs are fucking insane. For non-reading people listening to this podcast, TBRs they're to be reads. No offense to anyone who's ever told me I'm putting your book on a TBR, but that doesn't mean much to me because I know your TBR is like the longest in the world. Like, oh, I put your book on my TBR. And for me, that used to mean the world to me. Now I'm just like, okay, because I'm on Goodreads and my book is on 1 million. Like, oh my God, I said 1 million. My book is, I wish it was 1 million. My book is on people's TBR. I was going to say million as just like a arbitrary number. I'm not even going to edit that. I'm just going to speak that into existence. I wish it was on 1 million people's TBR, but maybe then a percentage would actually get to it. But yeah, it's on quite a few people's TBR. And that's been since I published. So you get into that. You're trying to find readers and you follow all the book accounts and they're never really going to get to you. I mean, unless you're something special that like hits that exact moment in time that they're looking for exactly that type of read. It's really hard to penetrate that. They've already and then worse for me is and this is no offense to readers, like you guys don't owe us shit. You're a reader. You're supposed to enjoy yourself, and I'm gonna just say that out there. You're a reader. You're supposed to enjoy yourself. This is not a fucking sob story. Back when I first published, it would be a sob story. I would be fucking upset, sad, whatever. But I had to change my mind. I had to consider who I am. I'm just somebody trying to provide enjoyment for you. So now that I've cleared that up, let's get back into this. A lot of readers, they have ARCs as well. And ARCs are their obligations for those authors because a lot of these readers, once you sign up, I'm speaking to the crowd that doesn't know about ARCs. Once book reading accounts sign up to receive ARCs, which are books that are not published yet but need to get reviewed first by book influencers. To stay a part of that program and to stay relevant in the book community, they need to complete those ARCs. So, of course, me, I don't have an answer. I have an already published book. My book is further in the back burner, and so is so many other authors. Now, if we're talking about creatives and other things like that, like artists and stuff, I'm really not sure your full struggle, but I know that you're, like the drawing artists and stuff, I know you're up against AI. I know you're up against other artists, and everyone's looking for different things. And then I hear a lot about people trying to devalue your work, like bargain your art down to a different price, things like that. For me, what I experience is a lot of book theft. I experienced a lot of people that said, "I'm going to buy your," or what am I talking about? If you give me your book, I'll do a review for you and spread the word for you. And I'll put it on Amazon and I'll put it on Goodreads. And I was like, okay. So I gave out hundreds, I'm not joking, hundreds of ebook copies to these people, these book reviewers, like legit accounts. And they took my book and they never ever did the review. And then back then it was very hostile toward me. Like when I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, I'm just curious, like, because it had been a few months, and I'm like, I'm just checking in. When can I expect a review? Then it would be like, oh, you're harassing me. And they would like block me. Actually, a lot of people would block me or stop talking to me immediately after I sent the ebook. Like I would send the coupon code, because back then it was Smashwords. I would send the coupon code for Smashwords. And people that were nice to me and sweet to me and supportive to me, as soon as I sent that code, they would immediately stop talking to me. I'd be like, hey, how are you? Thumb me up or just leave me on scene. So that was pretty ruthless. I will say that's a very toxic part of the book community. So in this case, like, I will say that there's a lot of dishonest readers out there, and you know who you are. If this podcast ever circulates back into your view, you stole my book. You were never planning on doing the review, and you straight up just took my book. And worse was, once I gave my book out, I saw my book showing up on pirate websites. So you took the ebook copy and then you used some kind of program to strip the book out of Smashwords, and then you posted it onto pirate websites. That was me. So anyways, that's the struggle for me as an indie author, is trying to gain an audience, because like a lot of booktubers and book readers are preoccupied. Then you have the dishonest bunch that are never going to actually pay for the books. They're reading it on pirate websites. My wife discovered this. She found out when there was some kind of booktube drama. She made a book account, because like at the time people were stealing the books, and she was trying to figure out my books, and she was trying to figure out what was going on. So she actually made an account, and she found out that a lot of booktubers were not reading the books too. They were reading the summaries and making reviews from what other people were saying, and skimming the book, the free previews or whatever like that. And what they were doing was they were trying to become it on an ARC list so that they could get ARC free books. So what they were doing was pretty much pretending they were reading a few books and making themselves look really good, and then they would finally get a free ARCs from authors they liked. And people confessed to her, like, oh yeah, I didn't even read this book, girl, blah blah blah. So there's a lot of dark side stuff to this book world thing So my thing was then to try to find non-readers and convert them to read my book. But my book is weird. I will admit that. It's a sci-fi swinger erotica. Like, who the fuck? Like, if someone's a non-reader and then I introduce my book, the first thing they're thinking is, this guy is fucking weird. Like, why is he introducing some sci-fi erotica to me? Like, he's a perv, he's strange, he's whatever. And I understand that point of view, right? A lot of people, especially, I get it. The woke culture says that there's no male and female roles or spots in life, but simultaneously, they also say that I'm in a female space, and that they say that I'm writing from a male gaze. I kind of, you know what? I don't say I get it, but I get it in a way like, I'm a male and I am writing sexy stuff, and then I'm like, hey, please read this. So I can see the weird part in that, you know? I'll admit that, right? So, I mean, I see it, but at the same time, we're consumers of all types of entertainment. And when you're watching a Hollywood movie that has a sex scene, there was a male who wrote that, or there was a female who wrote that. Like, did you discriminate that hard on that male director for writing that freaky scene that you enjoyed? You know what I'm saying? So I get it in a way, but I don't get it in another way. Anyways, when I'm in these spaces and I'm trying to get new readers, my book, of course, is like balls to the wall, freaky, sci-fi swinger erotica. So then it's just like, what's this guy trying to sell me, right? Sometimes I run into people and I'm like, hey, I'm an author, and I can tell that if they notice, like if I tell them what my book is, they're like I get it. Or if they follow me on Instagram innocently and then they check out my books later on, they look at me like I'm weird. Fair enough. So my struggle is my genre. But I'm going to be fair to myself and say, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, that even though it's freaky and weird, it sells way more. When I say way more, I mean like only a few copies here and there. Way more than my science fiction. When I publish my pure science fiction, it has some weird, freaky scenes in it, but nothing like over the top. When I published the science fiction, that thing went nowhere. With men or women, it went nowhere. And it was way harder to market. So funny enough, as strange as my book is, when people are interested, they buy it right away. When I do find an actual reader that wasn't a book reader before, and I tell them about it, a lot of times, sometimes they're like, oh, you know what? I'm buying it right now. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So that's my struggle in terms of indie authors. So I would say, if you guys wonder why indie authors and other artists are so desperate to find an audience, we feel invisible. We feel invisible. Like, I go online and just actively look for readers and I'll try to follow as many readers as possible. That's why my account looks so crazy. Like, I follow way more people that follow me because I don't give a fuck. I'm just trying to someone to see me. If I follow you, I hope you see me, you know? I try to like as many people's posts and engage because I want to be seen. And actually, I'm not just doing it for self-service too. I genuinely like other people's content. Like, I notice a lot of people like don't engage and they'll lurk and don't click like. I actually do read your posts and look at your posts. Like, that's the funny thing about me is like I actually really interested in other people's stuff, but sometimes at the end of the day I do still feel drained because I'm like, I hope people see me, because I want an ecosystem. I don't always want to give all my energy and then no one cares that I've liked a million of their posts, or I've read and actually looked at their blogs and looked at their YouTubes and because then I feel like then they're like, I got a follower, but like the etiquette would be like, they know I also want them to look at me. You know what I mean? Especially if they're creative as well. And I notice that sometimes people kind of take a high and mighty route, which is like, they noticed I followed them on everything, and I said comments and I looked at their stuff, and then they just still didn't even follow me back. Stuff like that. So for non-influencer people that just totally never want to be on Instagram and stuff like that, or if they're on it but they're kind of lurker accounts, if you ever just wonder why people seem so desperate, it's just very hard to get started. So that's why even people risk DMing you and getting blocked. Now, to the podcast, like just being a creative, trying to start a podcast, I just found this out right now. it is a gong show. Like, I posted on Threads, hey, does anyone want to be on my podcast? And let me take a look real quick. Here, take a look. Where am I? Did I close my Threads? I meant to have this open. I'm supposed to be prepared as a podcaster. I'm so not prepared that I actually closed the freaking tab. And this was the topic I was supposed to bring up. And then I typed Threads and it said thread lineup. Threads. Okay, so here I am. So I'm gonna read for you pretty much what happened. It's just for me it's incredible, like how difficult it is. My Threads is so slow, and all I see right now is all the thirst traps. Here we go. So 2 days ago, anyone want to hop on my podcast, promote your work, arts, book, etc., or just talk about topics? It says 40 comments, but obviously I was commenting too. So it was about 20 or so. And then I started replying as I go. And a lot of people said yes. Okay. For anyone who has Threads and for the people who don't, Threads is not like Instagram. You cannot DM people right after. So all of these people said yes. But what happened after is they didn't DM me and they didn't even try to follow me on Instagram or anything. So what am I going to do with that yes? Like, if you did really want to do the podcast, wouldn't you DM me right after? Wouldn't you like go to my Instagram and then click it and then like it and be like, hey man, like I saw that you wrote the podcast. You wrote the podcast post. When do you have free time? Or I want to hop on at this time. They just all started saying yes. So then I'm manually going behind them like, yeah, okay, well, like connect with me on Instagram, DM me, or some of them I was going directly to them and following them on Instagram and like DMing them, and then they didn't follow me back yet and DM me. So it's just sitting in their inbox and it's not going to show them because they didn't follow me back. So I'm like, well, did you really want to do the podcast? Like, I don't understand people. Did you really want to do the podcast? Like, why did you say yes so enthusiastically? And then some of them, when I said, hey, connect with me on Instagram, and then I followed them on Instagram, I noticed some of them even took, so Threads doesn't always show, like you can disconnect your Threads from your Instagram. Some of them disconnected their Instagram shortly after I said I'm going to write them on Instagram. So you knew I was going to sit there and try to connect with you, and then you disconnect. Like, I don't understand. So this is my segue conversation of I get why podcasters interview the same people over and over, because people are so unreliable. Like, once a podcaster realizes like, okay, this person's actually going to show up and do my interview, they're well sought after. I have also been asking a lot of people in person, like, hey, if you want to hop on my podcast. And this is not to bash anyone. Like, I understand a lot of people are totally introverts and don't want their shit out there. That's what people said to me anyway. They're like, no, I don't ever want to be on that. And I don't want my face out there. I don't want my voice out there. Totally understand that. It's just, I find it interesting that I find that interesting. Like, people really don't want to be on there because what I see is that a lot of people have said, oh, my life story is never told. I wish people would express this, and this. And I'm like, well, now you actually have the opportunity to talk about that, and I can post it and publish it, and it'll be out there for the world to see. I'm not a big podcaster, but I'm hoping to be, and I'm hoping that as people share their experiences and they would want to share the podcast with people. But there's that block right there, is that people actually don't want to talk about what they said they would wish other people would talk about. And I find that interesting. And then, yeah, like I've just been trying to coordinate the rest of the people that did reply and everything like that. I'm just trying to coordinate times, and that's hard too. Like, I'm Pacific time in Vancouver, Canada, and people are East Coast, or one guy was in Trinidad, and he was like, yeah, I could do 8 o'clock my time yesterday. And then I was at my kid's hockey game at 4, and he's like, hey, where are you? And I was like, I'm at my kid's game. And he's like, oh yeah, it's 8 o'clock here. And I'm like, oh Jesus, 8 o'clock for you is 4 hours away from me. So that's interesting too. Like, yeah. So I understand the difficulties of being creative, because you got to line everything up and everything has to go perfectly smooth to start gaining traction. And then for all the other creatives that have already made it, a lot of you are just going to be like, yeah, I know that already. Like, or a lot of you are going to be like, that's fucking common sense. But since this is my podcast about this, whatever topics, this is my discovery. This is my storytelling. So for me, I am learning all of the pain. I thought podcasts would be a lot easier. I thought I could just have people hop on and we can just do our thing. But it is difficult. What else do I want to talk about? How do I say this? In summary, I think I would try to say that I give a lot of kudos to all the creatives that have found their way, found their audience, and maintained keeping themselves relevant, because I don't even know where to begin. I was never good at TikTok. Now that I see that TikTok is getting banned in the States, where a lot of people were relying on it, and I was never good at that. I never knew what to post. On Threads recently, I tried to post some weird, funny, freaky things, like just to see what kind of reaction it got, and it fell dead. And I was like writing people, DMing like, I made that teabag comment, like with the panties. I was like, some people see panties, but I see teabags. I just want to fucking see if that would go viral, because freaky people, right? Like minded, but it didn't take off, right? I'm just trying different shit. Kudos to all of the people who know what the fuck they're doing on these social medias. I was aiming for 45 minutes, but I'm really not sure what else more to talk about. Time to self-promote. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Transition music, because I'm too cheap to buy transition music. Hello, this is your host, Author O.M Wills. If you enjoyed my podcast and my topic of today, please like and subscribe. And I will be posting this on Spotify and YouTube. And the links to my books will be in the YouTube. I have no idea how to connect links to the Spotify. I will look around for that. Also, about those links, I'm posting an Amazon link for the States. If you are in any other country like Canada, UK, Australia, wherever, you actually have to search my book on your Amazon, ERTA, the complete series. Those links just for the US will always say that you cannot purchase the book, so you have to type in the title. Again, please like and subscribe, and please check out my books. My name is Author O.M Wills. If you type in that in Amazon, you can find a list of my books. I want you to focus on ERTA, the complete series. That is the main one that I think you would enjoy, and the main one that, has presence. It's a full series. Thank you for watching this podcast. I am not editing any of this. All those people I tweak and everything like that, I haven't got there yet. So thank you for being here, watching all of my blunders and everything like that, and starting this journey with me. Take care. Author O.M Wills signing off.